Thank you for creating our amazing GPT that has revolutionized the way that I am able to create blogs on our website because it was trained on our website content and saved me a lot of time in editing, honestly. So it's awesome. And so as part of that,
Yeah.
I know we all want to know how hard was it to do exactly what
Yeah,
you did? So you've agreed. Thank you
yeah.
for showing us how to do it.
You bet.
Yay.
You
All
bet.
right.
Yeah, I'll share my screen and walk you through what I've got.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is screen sharing is paused. Is it working? It's working. Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. Where is it? Is it, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, we can see you're on ChatGPT 4.0,
Yep.
and
Great.
the highlighted one is AIGG Blog Writer.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go to just bring up the GPT, and this is one that I created, and we can walk through the kind of the guts behind that. But I thought I'd just start from the beginning. And how do you make one?
Can I ask a quick question to
Yeah.
start? Do you have to have a paid subscription to GPT in order to make one? Drew, do you know?
That is a great simple question, and I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine. We can figure it out. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's something like $10 a month that I'm paying for this, but it seems to pay for itself. So down here we have Explore GPTs. You go there. And from here, you've got a new option to create in the upper right.
I do not see your anything moving right now. I'm sorry, Drew.
You're probably seeing a different screen. Let me go back and do this. Yeah, I think screen sharing is paused for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Huh.
I will try to reshare. And there. Okay, how's that look?
Now I see your experience a soul. Yeah, now we can see it move. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
great. So we go down to, we're at the main screen here. We just go down to Explore GPTs. And now you've got a new button to go and create, but just pointing out all the different options that are in here. Hopefully you guys have been looking at those. And that's what we're creating. Creating one of those fancy applications. So what we've got here, they're presented with the create and the configure. Configure is where you enter in all the basic information about what you're doing, and the bulk of the work is done down here in the instructions section. The create section is an area that you can start to talk to it, and it will create one for you. That works. I've had mixed results with that, and I'm sure it will be even better in the future. But what I love about doing it manually is that you can just get to really see what's happening. And really it works similar in that the instructions section is kind of where you're talking to it, telling it what you want, that kind of a thing. But you give it a name, you can give it an icon by clicking on this. And then you give it a description so that people understand what your GPT does. And the instructions part is the biggest part of this, and that's what drives the whole thing. And that's something that takes a lot of experience and time, and I'll kind of walk you through, what makes a good answer on that. Let's see, pulling up some notes. And, I think what would be good is to look at, because you talked about this, looking at, the one that I made for us for AIGG to help write blog posts. Here it is in the configure mode. I've added an icon. I've given it a name. I've given it the description. And being really clear about it, it's to rewrite the content that you enter in the style of a specific web page. And I think that's just, a really smart way of approaching it, because if we ever want to adjust what this is doing, we can always adjust the language on that page, and it affects, everything going forward. It's just a slick way of handling it.
Nice.
And then, so the objective. So this was all written, this is kind of new content that I've written to kind of formalize and to show best practices in terms of what we're doing. We had been using this GPT with just a very simple sentence. And that simple sentence was use this web page, rewrite everything on that web page in the style that it's written in on that page, and rewrite it for me. And that was as simple as it was, and it works. But it works even better if you get more specific with it and you give a lot more detail. And so what we've got here is the task definition, the purpose, rewrite provided content to align with the tone, style, and structure of the writing found in the specified URL. As you can see, it's kind of, you're talking to it like you're being very deliberate. I know that with GPT, sometimes we're very conversational, and that works, but when you're asking it to do something really specific and you want to get a very specific result out of it, it's more like programming. So you want to use very concise language.
Drew, is it kind of like a creative brief in some ways, like for those marketers who are used to writing a creative brief for an agency or something like that? Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's you being very specific and really laying things out, and talking about things that you really want. It's also okay to talk about things you don't want, but focusing on what you want at first is what you really should focus on.
Can you use ChatGPT to write all of this for you, and then you just modify it?
Yeah, I answered. That's right. I answered in my 2 or 3 sentences that I wanted it to work with, and then it came up with this in a very defined way of handling it. And what I like about that is that I can look to ideas that it's had with more words. I feel like I have more control. And I also have clearly something that it wants to understand. It likes the idea of, for content requirements, for example, of having an introduction and a body that really, helps people understand the way that that page is written. It sees an introduction and then it sees a body. And so it wants that kind of same style to follow through. And so this is just a great way of handling it. It's like it's smarter than us. It really looks at what's there and makes you kind of second guess what you thought you wanted. And I think for me, that's been the #1 thing with AI, is makes it second guess what you thought you really wanted and gets you to something that's much more refined. And so that's effectively what this is. All this language that's here is based on a couple of sentences that I gave it and asked it to please write, the perfect description for instructions for writing this particular type of tool. And as you can read through, it's just really, really original, really simple language, incorrect transformations and correct transformations. So to transform it from, our company is dedicated to providing innovative solutions to modern problems. An incorrect transformation is, we're all about finding new ways to solve today's issues. It really wants, we're really trying to get it to do this. And that is the correct transformation, addressing it in a way that feels more formal, but also that really drives home how we feel about what we're doing and the complexities of contemporary challenges, much more about who we are as AIGG. And then the summary is great to have on here. By adhering to these detailed instructions, your task is to transform the content and match the tone and style of that About Us page. It's just summarizing everything for it, and apparently that's something that it wants, and it works pretty well. And so that's just entered here in the instructions section. Again, you could just enter a couple of sentences and you're good to go, but I think this is a better way of going about it, is figure out your couple of sentences that you want for your GPT, your tool, and then take that, copy and paste into a regular conversation on GPT, enter that in as this kind of more formal text.
So Drew, when we want to create new content or new GPTs, this structure that you've got, could we go into this existing GPT or another GPT that we could get access to, go in and click on it and configure and look at the configuration? Is that even a possibility, or
Yeah, in
is
fact, yeah, absolutely. You can well, you can edit it if you are an authorized person. Here's a share function, anyone with the link or only me. And so I believe that allows that same person to do the edit.
very
But
nice?
you know what, I have to check that. But in terms of creating a new one, you talked about, kind of using this as a model. You can just duplicate one.
Cool.
So once you have one started and it's something that was working for you, you can duplicate that and make that work for you.
So can I ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
So like if we wanted to say, okay, we'd like to create a new GPT and have it look critically at our blog itself and write new blogs in that. That would be something where all we need to do is change the URL and the references to that page, and then we'd see something totally different. Is that right?
Yeah, we would.
Cool.
We would. Although I would say that the instructions here are they're a fair amount of references to the About Us page. And so kind of starting over with, that the same few sentences that you've had. So here's something that comes up a lot in AI, and you've probably read it and heard about it, and that is keeping record of your prompts. And what we're really doing here is prompting. And so keeping a record of those original few sentences that you've done is really useful, because in the case that you just talked about, if we have a few sentences for the About Us page and we want to do a few sentences, that same kind of approach for a blog, it would be useful to kind of start over with that original couple of sentences.
Nice. Okay.
I wish there was
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wish there was a more convenient way of kind of tracking all that all within here, but it's all progressing and evolving. The next part of this is conversation starters. So these are the buttons that show up over here. Rewrite this paragraph to match, make this text suitable for AI governance group, adapt this content for a blog post on AI governance group. So there's one that's been written already. And you can add as many of these as you want for conversation starters. And so these are really just great things to have. I would almost call them required, because people show up at a GPT and we're kind of used to looking at these buttons and kind of just hitting one and going. It's a great way of getting things going for you. And also I've written them in a way to help people understand what this is all about, so that when you arrive at this GPT, you realize, you know what, this is maybe not for me. This is for someone else or a different purpose, or I'm on the wrong one. It helps, in addition to what's up here, these kind of questions help you realize if you're in the right place.
So Drew, if I was going to use one of those, because I don't use, I go to the GPT, I go in here, and I don't think I use one of these as a prompt. I just started going in, but I might have a different experience if I used one of these, right? And it might be a better experience. Actually, it takes some of my work away, and it's more tuned to the GPT itself. Also, per your point, if I were going into your image GPT, and I realize, oh wait, I really don't want any of this, I should just go bounce and find something else. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So knowledge. So the knowledge section is kind of a strange one, especially with all of our discussion about, privacy and, the kinds of things that you would want to upload. Normally, this is asking if you would like to upload files under knowledge. Conversations with your GPT may include file contents. File can be downloaded with code interpreter as enabled. Basically, when I think of a file, I usually think of a lot of content, and I just caution against that, of course, as just terms of what we're talking about in terms of what you've got in that content. And that's important to think about. But it is a handy way to upload something instead of just copying and pasting. It is something that would contribute to what is going on up here. So the way that this one is set up is we've asked it to rewrite the content in the style of the About Us page. But with the knowledge section, you could upload a file. And once you do that, it is given a bit more of reference material in addition to that. So if I uploaded a file that might be writing that I thought was just, beautifully written, and I want that beautiful writing to be kind of merged with what's going on with the About Us page, that's how I would handle that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It gets even more complicated as we go further. The last simple bit is whether you want this to incorporate web browsing, whether you want it to have the capability to have DALL-E image generation, and if you want it to have code interpreter and data analysis, which basically means to run code, which is beyond what we're talking about in terms of, you know, our basic use for what's going on, but it's great to see that it's there. There's a section called actions. And again, these are beyond what we're doing, but effectively these allow people to run APIs and to pull in from different URLs and use different authentication keys and that kind of thing. So it's pretty advanced stuff, but of course it's there, but not everybody needs it. And what we've got and what's been working for us is just as simple as this instructions section, really, and these conversation starters.
Awesome. And how
So-
long do you think, I know you were tinkering with this, but an hour to
Yep.
create this?
An hour to create it. The biggest part of creating this was the reading, in terms of understanding what the limitations were of these things, the best approach on this, you know, how to use it, you know, the people that, you know, and reading in forums too, a bit about how people were having success with it and how they're having failures with it. So I think that's really most of the time that I spent doing it. But yeah, I think simplifying it kind of like I think is really the best approach for what we're doing. I think the part where every person that uses this becomes more proficient with it is when they get more proficient with their instructions. And that is a little bit of a, you know, a learning process that is a bit of a, you know, hunt and peck as you go and improve as you go kind of a situation. So if you write something much shorter than this, like I was saying, just a couple of sentences, and that's working for you, that's great. But when you have something like this, like I was saying, you can really get in there and refine things. And I think that comes, that knowledge and that experience really comes over time, and you get a much better result as
Looking at whether you need to have a paid ChatGPT subscription in order to do this. The answer is yes. You know, either ChatGPT Plus or Enterprise. One thing I would say is, depending on what you're using it for, you should probably read the terms of service and make sure that it fully permits the commercial uses that you are intending to use with it, and that you understand what it's doing with your data. For something like a very public-facing website and blog GPT, no big deal because it's already all out there. But if you're doing something for, you know, more privacy related things, you may want to understand what those data policies are, and just make sure that you've met any conditions of your license so that you have the rights in it that you think you do, and you're sharing what you believe you're sharing and not what you're not.
Yeah.
Well, and especially where it comes to files uploading and that kind of thing, right, Carrie? That's why, Drew, I think you're so smart by saying, hey, for us, we don't need this here. But some organizations might want to upload files. Say, for example, they're looking to create a GPT that would help them, what, Carrie?
Let's say employee training. Let's say you hire a new employee and you have this giant manual of processes and procedures that you want them to follow, and you'd like to just upload that entire document here. Then the employee, while they may read the manual one time, they don't remember where they saw that thing that they saw. They can go to your GPT and type in a natural language question that just says, hey, what was the answer to this thing again? And maybe it could even direct you to a section of the manual. That would be amazing.
Yep. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the intention. That's a perfect example. Yeah.
Great. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I already do that on Google when I don't know what the heck is going on. I'm like, what does this term mean? But it would be great if you had something that was tuned to your own data, and frankly, you didn't have to sort through the detritus that is Google these days.
Right.
Sorry, Google,
well,
but,
tuned to your own data that's safe to upload into a GPT, right? Because to that point, do I, as a leader in an organization, mind somebody uploading our you know, our employee manual into what at some point could be part of the public domain or training for new LLMs and that kind of thing? which is
Right,
unless you have an enterprise license or this, then you got to kind of wonder about that, correct? Yeah.
that's exactly right. I mean, just read the terms of service for it. I know it's boring. I'm sorry. You know what? Copy the terms of service into the ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it for you if you don't have the patience to read it.
There you go.
Asterisk, it lies and is not always accurate. So, you know, I guess your mileage may vary. But yeah, just make sure that if you're, you know, like if you're just making some little side GPT, like for public facing stuff, you might just be fine. But if you plan to do more with it, it pays to investigate before you go hog wild on it. And it starts with the terms of service and understanding the data. And also, not only what's happening with your data, understanding the limitations, like you might not be able to upload third-party data, for example, unless it's licensed to you. So you want to make sure you're complying with all of that, unless they boot you if they find out you're not. And then there's the separate piece of what ownership or interest do you want to have in the thing that you created? Like,
That's a big deal. Yes.
Yeah.
So
and I do remember looking at this for just ChatGPT very early on, just for what they offered. I have not yet looked at the terms of service for this paid service. So now I'm curious. I'm going to have to go look after this call.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, give you another 24 hours and then you'll be able to answer them, right? That's good.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I'm going to create a ChatGPT to answer my ChatGPT questions.
That's
good.
You know, there you go. In terms
oh my
of
gosh,
service
I just
review.
had 100 ideas for GPTs, and this has been great, Drew, because I've been a little afraid to venture in here because I thought it was just going to be a whole thing. And it's really not a whole
simple.
thing. So yeah, it's really straightforward.
Yeah, they've made it really great. I love how you touched on one of the topics that I think really kind of the whole reason for being for these GPTs, and that is when you, let's say, want to go to Google and just ask Google's AI, you know, because it has its AI answers these days at the top. You know, if you want to ask it a question, you can, but it's just just a morass of content. And so this is really what that's all about. It's taking the large, giant overall ChatGPT engine and creating something that's a smaller subset of that. And I think that's just the whole point of all this, and hopefully it makes people's lives easier.
That's awesome.
This is awesome. Thanks so much, Drew. I've been wanting to know how to do this for so long, and now I feel like next time we talk, I'm going to have created 14 new GPTs.
Yeah, and I think I should touch on one other subject while we're here. Is this up here at the top, there's configure and there's create. And create is kind of something that it's asking you, is there something you'd like to refine about what's going on? And I love that because it helps you in more of a conversational way enter information that would be difficult to go back through and try to adjust in all of this. So
can we remove, I'm sorry, Drew, but here's the perfect example, I think. Can we remove any kind of in conclusion? Because every single time there's an in conclusion, I have to delete the damn thing. And
so cool. Yes, let's ask it to do that. Please never use in conclusion.
Certainly. Or certainly.
Or certainly.
Or certainly.
Yes.
Love it.
Oh, ChatGPT.
And what does it say?
Well, and Janet, that I think then you can also go that next step and say, start giving it ethical directives.
Yeah. Yep. I like that.
I love that.
For some reason, it's slow. People must be using it at this time of day.
Yeah. West Coast is wide awake and, doing stuff right now.
We just had our second shot of coffee for the day, so.
Nice. Normally it's not as slow at all, but here we go.
So Drew, are you
perfect.
I saw that there was an analytics button. Let's see. See, that's cool.
Thank you.
Wait, can you ask it a question now and test it and make sure that it doesn't do those things?
Yes, you can. So the last thing I want to tell you is that you've made all these adjustments, right? You created it. You've got to hit the update button up here, which is important.
Don't forget.
And it's also kind of odd that it says update because I'm looking for something like save, but you don't get that. So now it prompts you to use it. I'm gonna view the GPT. Say something that uses phrase in conclusion. Ah, it doesn't use it. To
Yeah.
encapsulate the key points
Instead.
as discussed, it is essential to recognize the overarching themes and their implications.
Bingo.
Nice. Good
Bingo.
job.
Good job. Seriously.
Okay.
Nice work.
This is so
Oh.
fun.
Yeah. Seriously. Thank you.
You're so
I'm
welcome.
not getting anything done the rest of this afternoon, you guys.
Yeah.
Carries
It's
on.
gonna save our lives.
I love it. That's great. Okay. And any other comments, questions, concerns at this point?
No, I think
really
this was great. Thank you so much, Drew.
Thank you,
Yep.
Drew.